Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
Let's continue with our interpreting of Max Bennett's A Brief History of Intelligence. This is part 9 of the series. Today, we'll discuss the fifth and, so far, final breakthrough of the human brain. Language. How did language emerge? How is human language different from that of chimpanzees or monkeys? There is an intriguing story here. However, this story is still subject to debate. For example, the famous American left-wing intellectual and linguist, Noam Chomsky, disagrees with this view. But I believe that the conclusions Max Bennett draws from his research in A Brief History of Intelligence offer the most reasonable explanation available. In simple terms, language is the result of multiple factors, coincidentally working together. The development of language, which allowed us to become human and begin civilization, was a perfect storm created by a positive feedback loop of various elements. In the last video, we talked about our common ancestor, with chimpanzees, around 15 million years ago. This primate species, capable of understanding theory of mind and political behavior, primarily lived by eating fruit. They lived on the African continent, which was then covered in forests, providing an abundance of fruit. Life was good. If life had continued like this, we would still be chimpanzees today. But fortunately, or unfortunately for our ancestors at that time, around 10 million years ago, the African environment began to change. Tectonic shifts created a new landform in what is now Ethiopia, known as the Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley split Africa into east and west. The west side remained forested, while the smaller east side gradually lost its trees and turned into grassland. By about 6 million years ago, new mountains grew around the Rift Valley, further isolating the east and west. This separation caused our primate ancestors to divide into two groups. The western group remained in the forest environment, evolving into today's chimpanzees. Our ancestors belonged to the eastern group. We now faced a new reality. No more fruit, and we had to adapt to the savanna environment. By about 4 million years ago, we began walking upright. Why upright walking was advantageous in a savanna setting has many theories. Perhaps to see further above the tall grasses, or to reduce the body surface exposed to the sun. No one knows for sure. Although we were walking upright, we were not much smarter than chimpanzees. Our brains were about the same size, and our tools were not very advanced. Around 2.5 million years ago, many large mammals evolved on the eastern savanna, including elephants, zebras, giraffes, and wild boars, along with predators like lions, leopards, and saber-toothed tigers. In such an environment, meat became a crucial resource, and we began to consume more of it, upgrading our ecological niche. While chimpanzees' diets consist of only 10% meat, our ancestors' diets increased to 30% meat. This shift was not easy, as we were not naturally suited to meat consumption. Lions and tigers have sharp teeth and claws, but we did not. Our hunting skills were modest. Studies show that we mainly ate carrion, scavenging the leftovers after predators had finished eating. We used stone tools to skin animals and crack open bones to access the nutritious marrow inside. Gradually, through this humble means, we became a carnivorous species. By around 500,000 years ago, we evolved into Homo Erectus. Note that this is just an academic term. We had been walking upright long before that. Homo Erectus became the apex species of the savanna. 85% of our diet consisted of meat, thanks to our advanced hunting techniques. We were so skilled that we even hunted some large predators, like saber-toothed tigers, to extinction. Our hunting skills improved partly because we invented new tools. We learned to use throwing weapons, even spears. More importantly, our bodies changed. Our legs grew longer, which was beneficial for running. Our skin lost its animal-like fur, and developed sweat glands, allowing us to cool down by sweating all over our bodies, unlike other mammals that can only cool themselves by panting. This allowed us to stay cool during long-distance running. In fact, Homo erectus was the best endurance runner in the animal kingdom. While animals like antelopes are much faster in short sprints, they lack endurance. Our hunting tactic was persistence tracking. We could identify an animal's trail and keep pursuing it until it was too exhausted to escape, becoming our meal. Our brains entered a rapid development phase, with Homo erectus brains growing to twice the size of a chimpanzee's. Homo erectus jaws and internal organs also became smaller, making them more like modern humans than chimpanzees. But how did this happen? Logic dictates that a larger brain and body require more energy, so how did we manage with smaller digestive organs? The only reasonable explanation is that we learned to use fire and began eating cooked meat. Cooked meat provides 30% more nutrients than raw meat and requires much less time to digest. The use of fire was even more revolutionary for Homo erectus than the invention of the refrigerator for modern humans. Of course, these advantages also brought some inconveniences. The biggest was that Homo erectus had larger brains, which made childbirth difficult. The shift to upright walking narrowed the pelvis, complicating childbirth. Our solution was to be born earlier. Most animals are born fully developed, such as calves, which can walk within hours of birth. Human babies, in contrast, are born premature and require constant care for about a year before they can walk. Relying on a single mother to raise a child, as chimpanzees do, was no longer feasible. Hence, Homo erectus societies began to form around monogamous pairings, where fathers had to help care for the family. The next question is, did Homo erectus have language? Scholars speculate that language originated from social interactions within Homo erectus groups. It likely began with communication between parents and children. Homo erectus needed language to teach complex tool-making skills. But why would we speak to people outside our immediate family? The key is that speaking to others almost always benefits them. You either inform them about something or teach them a skill. Using language is an altruistic act. But why would we help those who are not relatives? The answer could lie in group selection. Living in groups encourages altruistic behavior. When someone saves your life during a hunt or you help someone with a task, these actions should be praised to strengthen the group's competitiveness. Conversely, if someone acts selfishly, they should be criticized. How do we encourage altruism and punish selfishness? The answer is through language. When non-relatives gather to talk, most of the conversation involves gossip. We discuss others, share rumors, and hold people accountable for their actions. This is not spreading falsehoods, but rather public opinion oversight. It is precisely through this kind of private discussion that communities can reward altruism and condemn selfishness. As cooperation within the group grows, language becomes even more valuable, leading us to talk more. This creates a positive feedback loop, allowing language to flourish. Around 100,000 years ago, we formally developed language. Is human language a result of a special structure in the brain? At first glance, it seems so. The human brain is almost a scaled-up version of the chimpanzee brain, with only a few differences, but not in its structure. Our neocortex has two areas dedicated to language functions. Broca's area, which handles language production, and Wernicke's area, which deals with language comprehension. These seem like hardware settings, but they are not fixed. The neocortex is flexible, and language functions can appear in different brain areas. Moreover, only humans have the vocal cords and throat structures needed to produce complex sounds, while chimpanzees do not. This limitation, however, is not decisive. In fact, chimpanzees can be taught to communicate using sign language or symbols and can express simple meanings, although they cannot form complex grammar. Not having the vocal ability does not mean a lack of language ability. What is the real difference between human language and that of chimpanzees? The key does not seem to lie in anatomical differences, but rather in something more subtle. The true distinction is that human language is a system that needs to be learned, while chimpanzees, though they do vocalize to communicate, only have a reflexive emotional expression system. For example, when you see something funny, you laugh. When you are sad, you cry. These are reflexive, emotional expressions that require no learning. Reflexive emotional expressions are the same for everyone worldwide. Chimpanzees also express themselves reflexively. They make different calls, depending on the situation, but these are instinctive emotional reactions, not language. No matter where a chimpanzee is raised, its instinctive reactions remain the same. Humans, however, can express themselves deliberately, unlike chimpanzees. Even if you don't find something funny, you can still pretend to laugh. This difference explains why microexpressions differ across cultures, making lie detection, based on expressions, unreliable. Our language is a deliberate, non-reflexive form of expression. This is the fundamental difference between human language and chimpanzee vocalizations. Language is not something innate. Language must be learned. This is why languages vary so widely across different regions and groups. Of course, evolution had to pre-install something in our brains to enable us to learn language. This is similar to how a bird cannot fly when it is born. It must learn, but its genes provide a system that allows it to learn to fly, such as hopping. So, what is the system pre-installed in humans that allows us to learn language? It is not located in the neocortex. It is believed to be hidden deep within older regions, like the amygdala and brainstem. This system gives humans 3 innate abilities that chimpanzees do not have. The first is turn-taking communication. Infants and mothers engage in a back-and-forth exchange, even if it's just making sounds, but there is always response and interaction. The second is joint attention. When a mother points to something and says, "Look there," the child will look. The mother says, "This is a flower," and the child understands. This ability to focus on the same thing together is key to learning language. The third is asking questions. It may sound surprising, but the conclusion is clear. Humans are the only animals that ask questions. With these 3 innate abilities, we are able to learn language later in life. I once heard that a genetic mutation gave humans the ability to use language, but now it seems it's not that simple. If the first 4 breakthroughs in the brain occurred at an individual level, the 5th breakthrough, language, has a distinctly social aspect. Because we are social animals, we developed language. Language connects brain to brain. Before, we were isolated individuals. Now, we are nodes in a network. This allows our knowledge to advance rapidly. We'll discuss this further in the next part. That's all for today's content. In the next part, we'll discuss the journey of civilization.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.